It's Tuesday, April 21st, and the chickens are 10 weeks old today. Well, hi Nugget, how are you? I threw out some mealworms for them, but they seem more interested in maybe my chicken shoes than they are in their treat. Okay, what you doing there? There's nothing in my sweater for you to eat. Hey. Hey Nugget, you're getting big. All right. There's Mr. Knightley. I was wondering where he was hiding. Okay, we're gonna start the garden tour now. There's been quite a bit of change since last week, starting over here by the chicken coop. This little planter has some butterfly pea flower starts in it that will hopefully grow up that fence. This is some chia, and the things I'm growing over here I'm basically going to be using as feed for the chickens. So these two plants here are some mammoth sunflowers, and then I have a couple more right there and right here that are also mammoth sunflowers. So planting that over here for extra food for the chickens, but obviously not growing inside their run because it would not survive if it was there. All right, let's move on to the garden beds. I think you can probably tell there's been quite a bit more growth in the past week. There has been a lot more warmth, so our broccoli plants have taken off, getting nice and big. The peas on the other side of that have also grown quite a bit, and that one I was struggling to get attached last week finally got attached. I have another little pot out here because I put more seeds in the ground, but I'm not 100% sure they're going to take off, so I might be transplanting some in. Let's go back around to this side. That's the kohlrabi that's finally starting to get a little bit bigger. And some other broccolis back there, smaller ones. The lettuces are doing fantastic. And you can finally really get a look at the kale coming up. Okay, now I did a lot more planting this week, and so the garden is actually about 90% planted. So here are the new things in this bed. These starts back here are echinacea flowers on the inside of the fence here. And then on the back side of this fence, they'll go up the trellis, are some melons. They're very small still, but these are watermelon starts, and these are personal size watermelons, so they'll never get very big. These are acorn squash. And then this row here is noodle beans, the long Chinese green noodle beans. And then here starts a couple different kinds of cucumber, slicing cucumbers and then pickling cucumbers. So that's what's new in this bed. Here on the other side of the trellis, you can see my one pea plant. Again, I put some more seeds in the ground, hoping more would come up, but I haven't seen them yet. The onions are doing good, as you can see. And then on the other side of that are the turnips, still growing well. Their leaves are starting to get bigger, so they're a lot easier to see. Here, the new plants, these little starts, they're called cucamelons. They're just, or Mexican sour gherkins, real tiny little snacking cucumbers. And then this side also has some of the noodle beans. We've got some red variety on this side. And then here we've got some more melon. The leaves look yellow like it's going to die, but it's the way they grew out of the ground. So this is called a golden midget melon. It's a watermelon that's actually yellow on the outside. And then these are Kajari melons, just a different snack size melon. That is the turnips. I'm sorry, not turnips. That's the beets. Again, they are still small, but they are growing. So you can see them there. And then here in the center, the new things that have been planted, the large green ones are salvia, which is an odd flat leaf pattern for a tall spiky plant. This is milkweed, butterfly weed. And then these little starts here are going to be zinnia. And then this plant here is bee balm. And then we've got some chives planted here in front on both sides. They're harder to see. Okay, that's what's new here in this bed. I'm going to go ahead and come back here to the new grow bags that are planted. These are different bush beans. So this one is cannellini, and I had a little bit of trouble with sprouting on cannellini. I got one that came up, and there's another one that was trying to poke through on this side. That's the bean that did the worst for me germinating. These are black beans. Both of these are bush black beans. This little pool finally got its plants. This is a zucchini, and I do have some more seeds in the ground in this one because I didn't have great germination on the zucchini either, so there will be more than one plant there. The herb pool is still doing well. The chamomile is just going to take over, I think, but everything is still growing. strawberry bed is doing great, and you can see we've got some flowers on it. So the front ones will be setting fruit soon. Garlic still going to town. These bags here, that is just a bush green bean variety. Same thing here. And then this bag and this bag are both a bush navy bean. And then we do have some potato leaves popping through back here. Potato bags. Let's start here closest to where we were in this bed and all the new plantings, which are tomatoes. Some of these plants are much smaller than others because some of them I got the seeds later. So the smaller plants are just because they were started much later. This is 2 plants of climbing triple crop. This bed is my larger tomatoes. There's an Abe Lincoln. This is an Amana, which is a yellow tomato. Dr. Witchy on these 2, which is also a yellow or orange tomato. Bonnie Best is a red. The rest of these are black or purple. Paul Robeson. A couple of Black Beauty tomatoes. And a couple of Black Elephant tomatoes. Black Elephant are huge. Got my peppers in. This end down here, the small ones are jalapeno, which is the heatless jalapeno. And then the row closest to the tomatoes are my King of the North red bell peppers. And then the ones in front are orange bell peppers. So I have 4 of each of the bell pepper plants. Brussels sprouts are coming up nicely. I'm really starting to think this one back here is just going to stay that size forever. And then the tatsoi is coming in along. And that's all that's in this bed. Around the tatsoi here is going to be my okra, but it is not ready to go in the ground yet. This bed is still in shade, but we'll see what I can show you. First of all, my nasturtiums did not make it through last week when it got so cold every night. So I knew that those plants were probably in danger because I had to put them out so early. But I put new seeds where each of the plants were, so hopefully we'll get good living plants soon. Between all the where the nasturtiums are going, I planted marigolds in every spot. And that's all the way down the line to the end of the bed. It alternates with marigolds and nasturtiums. My cauliflower, the purple of Sicily, I'm hoping this plant pulls through. I don't know. It must have gotten damaged during the frost that we had, but I don't know why the rest of them didn't. It's kind of strange. But the purple of Sicily is doing good. The amazing cauliflower in the back is finally starting to look like it might make it, so it's giving me hope there. Early Wakefield is doing well as the purple cabbage I'm growing. And then some more new items. Here is the pink celery growing. Got 6 of those plants planted. And then the tomatoes in this bed. On this end, I have Aunt Molly's ground cherry, and there's 4 of those plants down here on the end. And then this side of the trellis is my cherry tomatoes. Again, this part's in shade still, so hopefully you can see, but this is a Brad's Atomic Grape, and there should have been another one here, but my plant got damaged, so I'm trying to reroot one to go in this space here. These are blueberry tomatoes, and then these 2 don't have a label, but I believe they're yellow pear. I think they're the only ones I didn't label. This one is a black cherry, as well as this one. That one is huge. You can see some of these got a bit of sunburn, but I'm pretty sure the plants are fine. The center leaves are still good, so they seem to be holding up really well, even with their ugly lower leaves. This big one is a Chadwick cherry. And then this is a German lunchbox, which isn't a cherry, but it's not a big slicer either. It is a salad size. And then these two here, this tiny one, and then this one here are both Amish paste, so they are sauce tomatoes. So that's it for this bed. So basically out here in the 4 beds, the only thing I don't have planted yet is the okra that's going to go in that bed on this end. But everything else in these 4 beds is finished and planted, including the area along the back. And we have been working on our dirt pile forever, and there is still dirt there. Every time we think it's going to be the end, we finally used it all, there's still more. It's a never-ending dirt pile, so we may never have grass there again. I forgot to show this last week, but my hostas are coming in really nice. Some bug got one of those leaves, but they're coming in really nice. That one's still really small. This one's variegated. I can see the yellow stripes on the leaves. So the hyacinths are gone flower-wise, but the hostas are filling in. I am routinely harvesting from this little salad box, and it's doing great. It's needing to be harvested again. The green stalk lettuce is doing well, and I've harvested from it. I'm so curious to see whether those will actually turn into real live carrots, because they're going gangbusters, so we'll see. I really thought those would die from being planted inside. You can see these are, again, little volunteer lettuces that came up that I wasn't intending to have there. This right here, and this one here, and then I think I'll have to spin it around. Yep. Here are the other two. This one and this one are the little tiny Tim tomatoes, and they are, again, little tiny container plants that only get about 8 inches tall. Here is the last of what is not planted yet. These are some pumpkins and other squash that are going to go in my new garden space that I'll show you in just a minute. And they'll go in by this weekend. I separated them out and up-potted them, and I think there may still be a couple of seeds germinating, so I'm just trying to be careful not to plant them too soon. These are the okra. Obviously there's more here than the space I've got out in my garden. Some of these are going to family members, but these are the okra that will go out in the garden once they're a little bit bigger. And a few more little pumpkin ones and squash ones that are still, you can see they're still sprouting up here. Most sunflowers are also not mine. So this is it. That's what's left unplanted. Just those few plants there. Okay, the salad bar garden has gotten a little love. It dries out so quickly that I decided to mulch it a bit. The reason it's not fully mulched is because I did this week go between the rows here and start a new row of seeds. So I'm going to wait for those seeds to actually germinate and pop through the soil, and then I'll finish mulching it in, just to not give them any. They'd probably grow through this. This is just fine pine bark, pine shavings. So they'd probably come through it fine, but I'm just going to give them a little bit of extra room. But the radishes are coming in really well. This little tatsoi plant, I think it's going to take a bit more time to grow. It was kind of slow growing out in the garden, but here it's in the shade a lot longer, so it'll probably take a bit longer. And then the lettuces. Marvel of Four Seasons is so pretty. And my spinach. This is my herb garden, and we'll go through it real quickly. But just for reference, this is right on the outside of my porch. So there's the salad bar garden, and the herbs are down here. So this is holy basil, cinnamon basil, which smells really good. Not like cinnamon, but kind of like licorice. Thai sweet basil, dark purple opal basil, which these leaves seem like they might have gotten a little sunburn, but the center is still purple, so hopefully that recovers. Sweet Genovese basil, flat leaf parsley, cumin, and dill. Now to show you the newest part of the garden. The trees there in the background are our little orchard. We've got some plum, pear, and peach trees that we pruned this last winter, and they look amazingly full this year. But that area has been sorely neglected, was completely overrun with wild honeysuckle. We had a fence around it. We're going to come up with a new fencing system to keep animals out of it, because we've yet to get any real fruit from it because the deer and the raccoons eat it all. But we tore down the fence, we tore out all the old honeysuckle. It still needs a bit more love. It needs some mulching and things like that. But this area here was completely overgrown as well, and we have been doing a lot of work to landscape it, tear out all the ick, and get it ready for planting. So it has started to be planting. It still needs some love. As you can see here, this area really needs some more dirt, and we're going to be filling that in. But we went ahead and got started with the area for our beans. So this is my pole beans, and here on this end we've got black beans, these are called Good Mother Stallard, and they are the prettiest purple and white beans, like for soup. They look really, really pretty. So these are all going to be dry beans. Now, these two here, I have no idea how to say it, but in my mind I say Blahilde pole beans. And they are, and there's a couple more up here. They are purple potted beans, but they are basically green beans. So these will be for fresh eating. They're purple, but when you cook them, they go back to green. So they are just for fresh eating or for cooking. And all of these up here are basically like that. Old Homestead pole is a green bean. And that's all those. And then Blue Lake pole. Yeah, I've got Blue Lake bush, and these are Blue Lake pole. So those are green beans for eating. Now, these areas up here that are unplanted still, we're going to get them smoothed out. And all the area around the beans is going to have the pumpkin or squash or a few more melons planted up in the areas here to cover the ground. So all that's bare dirt, and down here all that's bare dirt, that's where my unplanted pumpkins and squash are going. This doesn't look very exciting right at the moment, but this is the side of our gigantic shed, and it's mulched in because I did put some seeds in the ground here of actually collards and Swiss chard, and just trying to make use of this space here that generally just grows weeds, bindweed or wild morning glory. You can see them here trying to peek out, and I'm just pulling them as they come. They are the bane of my existence, but trying to make some use of this little strip of land that gets morning sun, but by afternoon it's completely in the shade. So I'm hoping that will help protect the greens from extreme heat. So that's the theory. We'll see. It's the first time trying to plant anything over here. Right next to this area, just off our deck and steps here that I'm standing on, there's this little patch that is, it's covered in leaves on purpose. It's just dirt here, and instead of just wasting it, we've planted a blackberry bush here. And I did also throw some melon seeds in the ground here. We will see if they germinate and do anything. Again, this is completely experimental. So that is it for this week's garden tour. Lots has changed in the last week. No more carrying plants in and out of my house. The long range forecast is frost free. So here's hoping all of this goes well and we see some massive growth in the next week.